Welcome to Coffee Meets Cloud, where three women in tech come together to share real stories about leadership, life, and everything in between. Join our hosts, Karami McCollum.
In other news, these headphones, I'm going to have to do something else. I am on fire.
Cassandra Parker.
It's pretty basic. We have to stay fully caffeinated in order to do all the things that we do.
And Rachel Rogers.
I don't know if we can survive this. I feel like this one goes in the vault.
Your go-to source for candid conversations and unfiltered insights. So, grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and join the chaos.
Welcome back to Coffee Meets Cloud.
Hey,
It's back!
Good morning. I have been told that some miss the original intro, so I'm going to go back to putting an emphasis on cloud, apparently.
it's your thing.
It is my thing. I was just getting ready to comment that something's going on with my hair this morning, and I look like one of those penguins on the Discovery Channel that's like migrating across the Antarctica.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so funny penguin story, right? We were at the New Orleans Aquarium, and my cousin was like at the penguin enclosure, and this is when Kinley was about 2, and Jamie's there with us, and my cousin's like, this says they're emperor penguins. And Jamie's like, yeah, they're emperor penguins. And she's like, well, how do they know which one's the boss?
Oh, she thought emperor meant the boss?
The boss, like the emperor.
And so Jamie just looked at me and I was like, just walk away. Just walk away slowly.
Makes me think of the allergesus. The allergesus got me.
Yeah. So for those who haven't heard that story, when my daughter was little, she could not say the word allergies. And so she would always say, Mommy, the allergesus got me. He got me, Mommy. And so now allergies is just the allergesus because the allergesus gets you.
And in my house, I always say, oh, you got the allergies. It's just a thing now.
Once you hear it, it's like, you can't unhear it. Yeah.
No.
Isn't it so sad, too, when they stop saying the words really cute like that? And you never know when it's the last time they're going to say it like that.
Yes. Breaks your heart. My niece used to have a lisp, and I just miss it all the time. I'm like, oh, it was so cute. She called herself Baby.
Baby.
It's so cute.
Precious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a lot going on lately, y'all. October has been a crazy busy time. I'm ready. I'm like, is it gonna slow down during the holidays? Because I feel like the holidays just get worse.
No, we're cranking it up.
Yeah. We're taking this 10 to 20 is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're getting some extra caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
Might have to do Scott's trick of the German chocolate cake and the caffeine mixture to make it through. I don't know.
Something. Because what I'm doing now is not working.
No.
We're
gonna have to start mainlining Celsius instead. Is there something I can like tap into on a grill?
You guys are gonna go to like that IV bar with just cans of Celsius and say, "Can you put this in the bag?"
Excuse me, I don't see energy drink
on
this menu. I think you missed something here.
Also, though, we could try espresso martinis.
Yeah, I've been meaning to try that, and I just never do. I don't either. I don't know.
Apparently, if you're a coffee drinker, I mean, I
do love espresso.
Yeah, there was an espresso martini tower at a wedding we went to.
Oh,
I did not take one because I felt like I was going to be the person that takes it, and then the whole thing topples over, and there's martinis everywhere, and they're dark colored. That would really ruin a dress. So, but apparently they're good. I don't know.
To try those out.
Yeah, or when my friend, his wife, didn't realize that Bailey's coffee creamer actually contained real Baileys, and so she was adding it to her coffee every morning before work. And she just thought it was the best thing ever. She was like, I have such a good day now. And he's like, yeah, because you're an alcoholic.
No kidding. You're drunk. Congratulations.
Maybe you should not do that.
It's not the one you buy at the grocery store that's like in the coffee creamer section that's like, Bailey's flavor.
She was like, well, somebody gave it to me. And he's like, just because somebody gave it to you does not mean it is not alcoholic. Like, come on. She was like, well, that makes sense why I was having really good days. I'm like, well, She
goes into the office. She's like, hey, guys, how are you?
What's going on, guys?
Having a good day.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday, fellas. Like, yeah, she was having a blast. So, yeah, watch your Baileys. It's not meant to be a coffee creamer.
Except for maybe on Saturday or something. Like, sure.
Saturday, Sunday, any day you're off, you know.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah.
So last week was Dreamforce in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
It was everything we knew it would be. Exhausting. About the time I adjusted, I feel like to that
it was time to leave.
It was time to come home. So I, in some respects, feel like I'm still recovering. I don't know why that is. I guess because I'm getting older, like y'all like to remind me.
It's not as easy to bounce back.
Yeah. But it was a good time.
It was a good time. And, you know, it's not what it once was. Dreamforce is definitely different than it was when I started going, you know, 15 years ago, which feels like forever. But it's still so inspiring to be around so many people who are in the same space as you, like-minded, like talking about all the new things that are coming out and getting excited about, you know, vibe coding and all the Agentforce things. And of course, in true Salesforce fashion, we rebrand everything. So now we have Agentforce this and Agentforce that. So, I mean, it's really cool always, as it normally is, to see everybody and get to see the latest and greatest. I mean, to see the robots. The robots are always really cool. Carrie and I got to see an interview with Ellen Pompeo, which was chef's kiss. Meredith Grey, love it. It was amazing.
She is just as eloquent as she seems to be.
Yes, and very much an advocate for, you know, women and having your own voice and, you know, being authentic and, you know, being in the room and really being there, right? And knowing that you're supposed to be there. So I really enjoyed that.
Had you guys ever seen, she did an interview, I want to say it was Architectural Digest, because it was about her house, right? And she was walking through her house, but she was talking about just her work ethic and how she kind of felt, you know, when she was doing Grey's Anatomy and how she still does Grey's Anatomy, but how that kind of shifted, you know, like how she tries to bring up others and how she was going through that episode. And I think too, if you haven't seen that interview, and also know that everything that they saw at Dreamforce is available online.
Yes.
So you can also find that exact interview if you're interested in it online as part of Salesforce Live. You can search it up on YouTube. Just type Dreamforce 2025 Ellen, and you should be able to get to it really quickly. But you can definitely find it there as well. I think one question I had for you guys, because I did not go to Dreamforce. So if you guys saw our socials, we met in the airport. I was supposed to fly to New York. They were flying to San Francisco. My flight to New York did not work out for me. It was a travesty. It ended up getting canceled. It was a whole thing. But one thing I was thinking is, you know, as Dreamforce has changed, right? And as technology conferences change, as the emphasis on AI starts to play out, of course, the Salesforce rebrand, did you feel the same sense of community? Because what I heard from some people, right, was that in the executive tracks and how the executive items were working, it was a very different kind of feeling and thought process and how that was going on versus, you know, at the community level, how that was working out for people.
I didn't have any specific interaction that made me feel disappointed in the community, but what I will say that I felt like was very prevalent that maybe could have contributed to some people's opinion is it was just a lot different. Like security was a lot different. They ramped it up a lot, which I appreciate. Truly, I really do, because it always crosses my mind every time we're at one of these big events. So I had no problem with what they were doing, but with the sheer number of people and the slowdown, it just felt like we were one of very many cattle in that space. And so I don't know if everybody, it's one of those things where you're spending more time having to focus on getting where you're going and navigating people and not getting stepped on or stepping on something. Like, did it just take away from being able to really take it all in and absorb and look around? You know, did it feel less authentic in that way?
Yeah.
Well, and I think because it's not that it's smaller, because it's really essentially the same size. But the way years ago, the way that it used to be set up was like there were always areas for people to congregate. And there was some of that this year, but I feel like there was less of that. So while you're standing in line waiting for a session, sure, you're talking to the people beside you and getting to know them and that kind of thing. But where I used to find so much value in just like going and sitting in like the admin, they used to have like an admin forest and all the admins would just gather together. Well, now the admin area is like you go sit and you listen to a session. So you're not having those interactions. You're just literally going in there and putting in your earbuds and listening to whatever they're talking about, right? So I feel like a little of that has been lost, because it did feel more back then. It did feel more about, hey, sure, you're here to hear all the sessions and learn all the new things, but you're also here to network with people and to get to know people. And it did feel a little bit disconnected in that way. But I also feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that after COVID happened, there's less of the togetherness naturally. And I think people are feeling more overwhelmed by being all together in those situations than they were before.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, Dreamforce, there is thousands and thousands and thousands of people that show up. Over the past couple of years, there have been a lot more incidents that were security related, which is why they took the time to up security. Unfortunately, we know people that were impacted and not in a good way, right? And you never want to go somewhere where there's high crime and experience a crime, especially not when you're at a work event and you're trying to get things done. So that would be why they increased the security, which, good thing this time. They said they reported 0 security incidents. That's a huge thing versus last year and kind of the security issues that they had. I think the other thing that is important to call out too is they are focusing less on things like admins, right? And there was actually articles coming out that said, in 5 years, they believe the Salesforce admin career will be dead and it will be replaced by Agentforce. You will have to have a different technical skill set than the traditional Salesforce admin skill set. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how that kind of evolves and how those spaces evolve as a result, because they're going to be transitioning over these next couple of years, which will make it a little bit harder to get in the tech space, right? When we all started in the tech space, it wasn't because we were IT graduates and had these big things,
Right.
It was accidental for the most part. And that's why they used to have the brand Accidental Admin, because that's how most people came into contact with Salesforce. But now it's going to be a higher skill, and it's going to change the game in terms of skill sets. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate that now into that community space and really bringing the community together in a different way. And it'll be neat to see them kind of on that evolution.
Yeah. Well, and we did talk to several people, at different places while we were out there about, because we were trying to talk to people about the podcast, get people excited about it. We have stickers. If anybody wants one, let us know. We'll send you one. They're really cute. I don't have one on my desk, of course, because my other cup's somewhere else. But we were trying to kind of get the word out about the podcast. And it was genuinely, that part of it felt like the old Dreamforce to me. Because when I would talk to someone, they would be genuinely excited about it. Yes, give me this sticker. I want to check it out. This is really cool. I appreciate this. So the community's still there. It's different than it used to be.
You can tell folks seem to be craving the interaction, and they do get very excited when there is an opportunity for that. But I think it's information overload, honestly. Like it's a bit overstimulating, and you're trying to maximize your time. Most people, you want to maximize your time. You want to see the things you intended to see. So like, what time and opportunity does that leave to just meander around and, sync up with people? So I don't know, but we did get to go to Alcatraz. Nothing got in the way of that. It is on brand that we forgot to film anything while we were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We did take a few pictures, and we can post those on podcast pages.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. It was interesting. If you ever make it out to San Francisco, I highly recommend that experience. Although I want to go back during the day when I can really see the details of the buildings and the island and stuff. We were on a night tour, so it was cool in its own way. But now I want to go back and see it in the daytime.
Yeah, I've seen it both ways. I definitely think the daytime was, you could see more about Alcatraz in the daytime. Plus, they had part of it closed down because they're working on this seismic stabilization, which is really good. You don't want it to fall down. But it was dark and you couldn't see a lot of the outside, where there's no light out there. So it was really cool to ride out to the rock at sunset, though, and see the sunset behind the Golden Gate Bridge. It was pretty.
Yeah, just the ferry ride's a cool experience, let alone the rest of it. So.
Yep.
Well, you guys got to meet Scott in real life as well for a hot second.
It was a hot second because that gentleman
Scott's
is
everywhere.
A busy bee. Yes, he's a busy bee. I was sitting there like, I have to rest my feet. I'm about to sit on this little thing. I was outside. I'm going to rest between sessions. And he was going zooming by. And he was talking to somebody, but I was just like, Scott. And so we got to meet for just a second.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, as busy as it is, as many people as it is, if you just sit still for a minute, you will actually see people Like as big as the Salesforce community is, and we talk about this a lot, as big as it is, it's so small.
Yep.
Like, and those connections you make are really important. And the impression that you make is really important. And I think, Karami, as we were talking, right, talking about personal brands and what kind of brand do you put out there comes into a pretty significant play in such a small connected ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, for those who don't know the concept that we're talking about, what's in a lot of social media, especially LinkedIn, is this thing where everybody's telling you, build your brand. You need to have a personal brand. It's 2025. Make sure you have a personal brand. But then the question is like, what does that really mean? Is it really required to have the career that you want? Do you really need sort of this voice that stands out? I've seen posts about it. I've seen videos about it. They say your personal brand is everything. But it's like, how much time and effort are you really supposed to put into that sort of thing? Because I could see that becoming exhausting. And what's supposed to be the point, right?
Yeah. I think when I went to college many moons ago, back when you walked up the hill both ways and, the snow, I took a sales course. And part of the sales course and the sales program that I went to, it was about your personal brand. You had to sell yourself. If you can't sell yourself, you can't sell anything else. That was the premise, right? So the first course you took, you had to get sponsored and your parents couldn't do it. Like, it was like, you have to actually go talk to a stranger or, someone who's not your in-law and go say, hey, like, will you sponsor me? And they had to personally give you $400 to sponsor this jacket. Like, it wasn't just, a given, right? And it was a competition as well. So like, the more sponsors you got, right, the more, the higher ranking you were on the leaderboard. But I think that was a very important lesson. And I think that is what you do in every interview, whether you think you have a personal brand or not. You create one every time you interview, every time you give a presentation. You are either the person in control of the room or you are simply a reporter. You are either the person who is the innovator with the bright idea or you're the note taker, right? Like, you have to treat your brand that way. It's not about saying you've got this huge online presence and you've got followers and social media and all that. None of that really matters from a job context unless you go on social media and totally screw up. Like, if you go on social media and you are like very much like a polarizing force, that can impact your job. So don't do that, right? Make sure your social media is a private, do the right thing. But when you talk about your brand, it's every time you interact at work. And that is what is going to be the difference between you being the person that's promotable and you being the obstacle.
Yep. Well, but I think too, it could also depend on the type of career you're trying to create for yourself or get into, the type of work you want to do. I mean, if you're talking about doing something in corporate America and, it's kind of run of the mill, then, the recruiter or the hiring director is maybe not necessarily searching for you on the internet to see if you have a brand and what your brand is. But I'm sure there are some types of jobs where having an online presence and what that brand says about you maybe is the determining factor about whether you get an interview or they call you back about having a conversation. And LinkedIn is like, it's the place. It's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's entire courses and classes about how to build your brand on LinkedIn and how to stay consistent. So I don't know.
Well, and with LinkedIn specifically, here lately, we know the political climate is all over the board, right? And there are so many people that are posting on LinkedIn about their political beliefs and about things that are driving them politically. And I personally disagree with that completely, because I find that LinkedIn should be a place where if anyone wants to come and see what is it about Cassandra that will inspire me to, bring her onto my organization, or to let people know what you know and what you bring to the table, doesn't really have anything to do with your political beliefs. And we're turning the LinkedIn platform on its head. And I completely disagree with that for myself. Anybody else, feel free to do what you want. But I don't think it's a place for you to go out there and just be posting wild and crazy things about what, like, it's for my professional career, right? Like,
so it was supposed to be professional connection.
Correct.
And it has almost turned into like I hate to say this, but like the Gen X, little bit of boomer, little bit of millennial version of social media.
Yeah.
It's like they always say, you never knew what Johnny Carson's political beliefs were, right? Like he hosted the Late Show. It was great.
He talked to everybody equally.
Right. Yep. Exactly. And that's the kind of brand you want, right?
Correct.
You want a brand where anybody feels as though they could have a conversation with you. They would feel respected in that conversation, and you don't have to agree, right?
Exactly.
But I think when you think about your brand, even when you think, like, let's say you are the janitor of the school, right? If you are friendly, if you are outgoing, if you are those sorts of things, when there's an opportunity to give you $1 more, that dollar's coming your direction. But if you are always negative, you never talk, you're like, get out of my way, I got a job to do, I got to mop this floor, don't walk on my floor, you grimy kids, you're never going to get that dollar. Like you could be the hardest worker. You could totally kill it. The school could always be spotless. You could eat off the floor, but it wouldn't matter, because you've got such a negative attitude that people don't want to work with you. They don't want to be there to help you out or do any of those things. And so look at it both ways, right? There's the social media presence, there's what you say online about yourself, but there are the day-to-day interactions, right? That you need to do to keep that positive brand so that you don't have to worry about the next job, but just the next dollar. Think of it that way, right? Like we don't, live to work, we work to live. So if you want to support a different lifestyle, especially with inflation and all those fun things that are hitting everybody, right? That positivity is going to go further with a brand than negativity.
Well, I view, trying to have a bit of a personal brand on social media or LinkedIn as like not the thing that's supposed to define you entirely, but I would say it's a place to show credibility, right? If I am putting on my resume or saying in interviews that I'm a thought leader, for example, LinkedIn can be a place to prove some credibility about being a thought leader. What are the sorts of things you're engaging in, and what are the sorts of things you're sharing? What are the thoughts that you're sharing? How are you uplifting other people? Like, how are you showing up for people in the digital space? I can see that being a way for employers to sort of validate what you're claiming, because it's getting harder and harder to really sniff out people that are full of it with their resumes and their supposed experience. So, and that way I think it could be cool. But a lot of the stuff I see on my feeds is just very performative. Like it feels very, I'm trying to build this really cool sounding brand, and it doesn't feel authentic. And I think that's really unfortunate. I think that does a disservice to the people that are going about it in that way. I mean, maybe it works in some spaces and for some people, but like, what's the longevity of that,
Well, and what I want more than anything for myself, and I feel like this is what other people should want for themselves too, is I want whatever I put out there in the world to be a direct reflection of how I actually am. I am not one way on social media and another way in real life. I am me. And when you meet me, I hope that you say, you know what, when I saw you on socials or I heard you on the podcast and then I met you in person, you are the exact same person that I thought you were going to be. I don't want anyone to ever look at me and say, you know, I thought you were going to be completely different and I like you or don't like you. I want it to always be the same.
Yeah. So they're going to be real shocked when they meet you and that RBF is on.
Hey, I don't have that issue. Okay. I have a lot of friends that have that issue.
I was gonna say I've never seen you with I definitely have RBF.
I do
seen
too.
you with it.
Yeah.
I smile quite frequently all the time.
Hers is very subtle. If you know Cassandra, you know when it's on. If you don't know her, you would not know that she is feeling that way.
I'm pretty good at hiding it, but if you know me very well, you're going to be like, I saw it in your eyes. You were not happy in that moment.
I saw that fire.
You kind of like, what's the word when you put your lips kind of get tighter?
Like purse your lips. Like
purse your lips.
Yeah.
I feel like I see you purse your lips in calls when you get a little.
Yeah. If you could see her like under her desk, like pinching her thighs to like not say the
or
things.
when I'm like
the smile is plastered on her face.
Yeah, when she's like, if I don't stay frozen, I'm going to say something that might get me fired.
Let me just stay on mute. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I think the other thing to remember too is whatever you put out there is there for forever.
Correct.
I think, and especially as young kids are entering into the workforce, whatever you did as a high schooler that you put on social media is now part of your brand.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried to protect my daughter from that so much. And I know you guys are starting on this journey and are going to start protecting your kids too, but it's inevitable that they're going to do something stupid, right? Because it's part of the learning process. We are just all thankful our stupid wasn't caught on camera, right? Like that is the difference.
Correct.
So I think too, go back and groom your story. So when you get to a certain point in your career, right, and you are looking at that first manager job, go back through your socials and say, if I were looking up to my leader and I saw this about them on social media, what would that make me think? And if you think anything less of the person, delete it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Remove it, right? Like, make sure you're constantly in that grooming mode for your brand because your brand's going to change. Like being authentic, like Cassandra said, is fantastic. And that is always what you should do. But sometimes your authenticity is a point in your life that maybe you've grown beyond.
Right.
And so it's okay to go back and groom your story and say, you know what? I don't want that out there anymore. So I'm going to take that away. And that's a personal choice because you may always keep it out there because you're like, no, it shows my growth and blah, 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 blah. Cool.
Okay.
Kudos to you. Right. But maybe it's worth taking it down.
Yeah.
In the vein of, looking up to leaders and being inspired, we went to, or Cassandra and I got to go to the Women in Tech, the 2025 Women in Tech Awards last night. Yep. There's so many words for that event. And maybe it sounds corny, but it really did what it's designed to do, which is inspire everybody that's there. The award recipients were just phenomenal. I cannot imagine what the judges had to go through to pick the finalists there. Because, everybody's story was amazing. How do you pick just one? But it was really cool. How would you describe it, Cassandra? The whole thing is designed to just uplift and recognize girls and women who are making a difference in the tech community in one way or another.
Yep.
And by recognizing them and highlighting them, it inspires the people in the community to see what they can do. This is Women in Tech Atlanta, to be specific, because there is a national version of Women in Tech.
Yes, this was the Atlanta chapter. So it's very much that, right, to lift up, inspire, the whole thing. But it's also, the point of women in technology is to uplift each other, the people that are already in the technology space, but also to encourage the younger generation of women to say, I know I can have a place in a mainly male dominated field, right? It's always been mainly male dominated in the technology industry. So it's getting those young girls and young women in college excited and inspired to go into those spaces, because it's been proven that women bring a lot to the table when it comes to technology. And it's a different mindset. The same as men and women are not the same when it comes to raising kids in a household. Women and men are not the same in corporate America. It takes both sides of the equation, right? It takes everybody working together. And when there's a lack of one of those representations, things suffer, right? So it was really inspiring to see these young girls. I mean, the Girl of the Year award winner, and I cannot think of her name off the top of my head. She had a phenomenal presence. She was very eloquent. I mean, she's in high school, for crying out loud. And the girl I was like, oh, I want to be her when I grow up. Here I am, 43 years old, and she's like 17. But it's so, I thought there was one statistic that Heather actually said, who's the CEO of Women in Tech Atlanta. She actually said that by the age like 35, like 50 something % of women who've gone into technology have actually left the space. That is something that is scary. That needs to change.
Well, you also need to look at the overall workforce statistics too. The number of women leaving the workforce in general, right?
Yeah.
Is a lot higher than it used to be. And a lot of that has to deal with the cost of childcare and all those things of like, if childcare is going to cost you $2,000 a month and you only make $2,500, is it really worth the $2,000 a month? Right. So I think that's something that, as a nation, we need to solve for, of how do we make it equitable for women to stay in the workforce and have childcare that's reasonable, right? I get the growing costs. We're all seeing it. We're all suffering from it. But when you can't make a wage that allows you to have your children in childcare, you then become unemployed. You then, go on government assistance programs a lot of times, because that's the only way to make it. And so I think that, as we look at those statistics for women in tech and for women in general at large, right, we really need to think about how do we make it more economical. It takes a village. So how does the village come together to really help and make sure that we can keep more people in the workforce doing the right jobs? Because the flip side of that is, when the women go back in the workforce, they have this huge career gap, right? Which is typically held against them. It's not something that's typically seen as a positive, right? And the workforce has changed a ton. So then a lot of times you got to go back to school, right? Which is, again, additional expense. And how do you really afford that? So I think it's great. I think one thing too is, I think all of the winners that you guys are talking about from last night, I think you can actually find on LinkedIn. If you look up Women in Tech Atlanta, you will be able to see these amazing women that they're talking about and their bios, and why they kind of won the awards that they won. And if you guys remember when we did Betsy's episode, right? Betsy was speaking a little bit about this process, and that, as one of the board members, she was going through the selection process at that time, right? And how important it was for the passionate stories that you guys heard. Those were the people that really took the time, versus some of the people who had gone through AI and thought that that was going to get them there. So, I think too, it's kind of fun if you go back to listen to Betsy's episode, once you've kind of researched some of these people, to give you a little bit different insight into the process.
Yeah. And, kind of tying back into this concept of personal brand, another one of the, I don't know if you'd call it statistic, but one of the things that Heather mentioned last night was that they had a record number of self-nominations this year, which everybody agreed was really cool. And when you think of this concept of building your personal brand, like, you do have to advocate for yourself. Hopefully everybody is fortunate enough at some point in their career to come across a coworker or a mentor or leader who recognizes their potential and sees, the great things they're doing and will help pull them up. But that's not always the case, So I think it's perfectly reasonable and should be encouraged. Like she said, it's not bragging if it's the truth. Right. And if you're not going to advocate for your brand and your abilities, who will? So that was really cool. Another one of the quotes that stuck with me from last night was, when women rise up, the world transforms. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true. And then, the whole thing makes you really kind of like self-reflect on like, okay, what have I been doing? How have I been, or how have I, or have I not been contributing to the community and reaching back and pulling somebody with me? And just the fact that the whole thing is called Women in Tech or Women in Technology, it got me thinking, I still do it, which makes no sense. But when I think technology, I think being in a dark room writing code. And I mean, I definitely thought it before I got into the tech space. And I realized that even still, when people ask me what I do, and I just say something simple like technology, because it wouldn't make sense most of the time to try to explain it.
Yep.
I feel kind of like a phony because I'm saying technology and I don't write code. But interacting with the people at this ceremony and then hearing those stories, it just reminded me that there are a lot of roles in technology that have nothing to do with writing code or being the most quote unquote technical person in the room. I mean, you have to have problem solvers, you have to have creatives, you have to have communicators, you have to have strategists. And those words describe women to a T. So there is a huge need for the qualities of women in the technology space, and you do not have to write code. So there's room for you if you want to be there.
Absolutely. And we want to be more intentional about, and that's what Karen and I were kind of talking about last night. We want to be more intentional about how we give back and how we help those people because, I've talked about it on the podcast before. Yes, I was in technology a long time ago, right? 18, 20 years ago, I started this journey of being in technology, fell into the Salesforce space, all the things. But I was very stagnant in my skill set. And I didn't have anybody that would mentor me to be like, hey, I see the potential in you. I know you can go to this next level. And when I made the leap to make the move and take another job, right, I didn't know if I was going to find that. I didn't even really think about what I was going to find. But then, I started working with Rachel and she was a great mentor for me. She helped say like, these are the things you're good at. Here's how you can improve. That's what we need to do for these other younger girls our same age. Heck, girls there are women older than us that could use the same kind of coaching, right? Like that are thinking about changing careers. I mean, we have an administrator that works with us right now who was in physical therapy and decided to make a change and become a Salesforce admin. That's amazing. I mean, she's at the end of her career and she's like, you know what? I'm not happy here. I'm going to do something different. Absolutely. That should be always a thing. If you're not happy doing what you're doing, someone should be able to reach back and help you. And I want to be that person for somebody else.
Yeah, I think that's really, however you help people, right? Helping people is something that, again, as we talk about the village, we've got to do better about, right? Even if you don't do technology, right? You ask my husband what I do, and he's like, I don't know, she makes unicorns and stuff, right? Like that's how he explains it. But I think if you talk about just at a human level, right? Like how you can help male, female, right? And really coach them in their career. It's all the same basics. It's that same brand we're talking about. There's no special secret sauce for being better in technology versus being better in human resources versus being better in marketing, right? It's all about how do you show up? When do you show up, right? How do you present, right? Present yourself, sell yourself. And somebody can help you do that, right? Whether it's one of us on this podcast, whether it's your next door neighbor because they don't like you, right? Like it doesn't matter what it is. Think of it that way. Don't think of it as, I think sometimes people set this goal and expectation to have this mentor like Cassandra's talking about, and they put all this pressure on it. And then they get really upset when it doesn't work out, right? Cassandra's journey was accidental, right? Those are some of the better mentors when you don't apply so much pressure to yourself and to your mentor. And you think about like, how can we look at this holistically, right? So don't think you've got to go and do something very formal. Think about how can I learn from the person sitting across from me in the room? If you can learn from that person and then you learn from the next person, right? You will naturally start to evolve your brand. But don't apply too much pressure to yourself. Don't give up. Like, you can do this. You got this.
Yep.
Amen.
And being a mentor doesn't have to be that complicated. I mean,
No.
you wouldn't believe the impact you often have to other people's lives and you never even know it. So if you can just show up in the world authentically, give what you've got to people, do it without any strings attached, you're going to make an impact, whether you're consciously recognizing it or not.
Yep. And when someone pulls you to the side and says, hey, you know, I would like to learn more about this thing that you do. Just taking a short amount of time to be like, here, you know, this is how it is. I mean, we were talking about the other day, Karen, you're like, I want to learn more about how contract management works because that's a whole other animal, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'll teach you as I can, you know, as I've got time. That's the thing that it's just part of your daily job, but you're growing someone else's skill set just by sharing what you already know.
Take it as a compliment. Right?
Exactly.
Take it as a compliment that somebody thinks highly enough of you to say, hey, can you help me here?
Yep.
How can I learn what you do? Right? Not everybody gets that. Not everybody gets those compliments. Not everybody can say that people reach out to them and want their help and assistance. View it that way. Don't view it as I got 50 million things going on and I can't take on one more goddamn thing and right? Like, don't do that. Right? And if you're in that headspace, take a moment, pause, and say, I would love to help you. I can't right now. Can we please schedule some time? But don't let where you are maybe mentally block you from having that conversation.
Yes.
Yep.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great conversation, ladies. I always feel like it flies by. We don't have enough time.
I know.
We don't have enough time.
You know, Friday morning, good conversation, highly caffeinated, still slightly waking up, but it's always great. It's always so much fun. We hope you enjoy and have as much fun as we do. As Karami takes us home, unfortunately.
I know.
Well, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Coffee Meets Cloud. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a quick review to help others find the show. Do you guys hear my dogs?
Yes.
You've heard mine the whole episode.
They're
it's fine.
duking it out.
Yeah.
I just watched one of my dogs run across the front yard. So I don't know how she got out, but she's in the front yard. So I don't know.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All
whatever.
right. Well, I mean, Karami's still taking us home. So, Karami, I don't even know if you know where we're at.
You guys know the drill. If you liked the episode, just give us a follow, give us a rating. It just helps grow the audience. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok to keep the conversation going and let us know what topics you'd love to hear about next. And until next time, keep your coffee strong and we'll catch you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.